What's up guys, my name is Stoody and I'd like to welcome you all back to another video, and in today's video I'm going to be doing my round 2 tips for the 2023 AFL season. Now before we get into this week's tips, let's go ahead and see how I went last week. So last week I scored 7 out of 9 correct tips, so I'll tell you guys what ones I got correct and what ones I got incorrect. Now the ones I got correct are Richmond, because it was a draw. It's an automatic correct tip. Collingwood, North Melbourne, Melbourne, Sydney, GWS Giants, and Essendon. The 2 that I got incorrect are Port Adelaide and St Kilda. Now it is time for me to predict this week. I'm going to tell you guys who I tipped and the margin, and then give a little explanation. So the first game of the round is on Thursday night. It is Carlton taking on Geelong at the MCG. Now this one's an interesting one. I felt like Carlton played pretty averagely against Richmond, whereas for Geelong, I didn't see that game, so it's hard to read. Also, I think Geelong are quite overrated. However, just looking at how Carlton played, I'm gonna go defensive on this because most people are tipping the Cats. So I'm going to tip Geelong in this one. However, I think this will be a really close game. I'm going to be tipping Geelong by 5 points. They're probably just a little bit better than Carlton and more experienced, so I guess just trust them a little bit more when it comes to the tipping. On Friday night we have the Brisbane Lions taking on Melbourne at the Gabba. Now these 2 I think are the 2 best teams in the league. Now Brisbane got annihilated last week against Port Adelaide, whereas Melbourne got a really good win against the Western Bulldogs. Now, a lot of people are tipping Melbourne in this one, about 60%. I'm actually going to be tipping the home team in this one, the Lions. I know they looked pretty bad last week against Port Adelaide, but I just say that's round 1 rust. And I think Brisbane are a really good side, and at home, even though I think Melbourne are the best team in the league, I'm going to tip them to beat Melbourne in a bit of an upset. They're not going to be happy with last week's performance, and they're going to be hungry to bounce back. So I'm tipping the Lions in this one by 16 points. So the Saturday early game, we have Collingwood taking on Port Adelaide at the MCG. This one again, another difficult one because we saw Port play really well against the Lions last week, whereas Collingwood also played really well against Geelong. Now I didn't see that game, the Collingwood-Geelong game, so it's hard for me to judge the Magpies, but I feel like these 2 teams are definitely top 8 teams this year. Now I'm surprised by the differential in tips. Collingwood are at 89%, whereas Port Adelaide are at 11%. Now I'm going to be tipping Collingwood in this. It is the safer option, but mainly because it's at home. You know, home ground advantage is always massive, especially for a Victorian team against an interstate team. I'm going to go Collingwood, but only just. I'll say Collingwood by 4 points. Saturday twilight, we have the Adelaide Crom taking on Richmond at the Adelaide Oval. Now I'm going to be tipping Richmond in this one by 29 points. I know the Crom beat us there last year, but I think this year we should be able to beat the Crom just looking at our talent compared to theirs. I think our midfield is definitely better than theirs. Our forward line should be too strong for their defenders. And our defense, even with a few injuries, they only really have Taylor Walker that I think can be a big concern. Obviously they have other capable players, but they're not the stars that we had to face last week against Carlton in Mackay and Curnow. And we did a pretty good job keeping them reasonably controlled. Obviously we didn't full on keep them quiet, but we controlled them and they didn't go out of control and kick bags on us. So the Tigers should get the chocolates here. We looked good against Carlton, just couldn't execute, just poor disposal and poor efficiency inside 50. But if we can fix that up, which I think we can, then we should definitely win this. Moving on to Saturday night, we have the Western Bulldogs taking on St Kilda at Marvel Stadium. Now the Western Bulldogs copying a pretty bad loss against Melbourne, and St Kilda a massive upset against Fremantle. I did predict St Kilda to be on the bottom of the ladder, but they've actually won somehow. But yeah, I'm going to be tipping the Western Bulldogs in this one by 27 points. Maybe St Kilda are a little bit better than I thought, or maybe the fact is they have no key forwards. They're going all small, and maybe that's made them really unpredictable and difficult for the opposition. I'm going to go the Dogs. They should dominate them out the middle. And really on paper, they're just a way stronger team. The other Saturday night game is at Optus Stadium. We have Fremantle taking on North Melbourne. Now I'm going to be tipping Fremantle in this one by 45 points. After their pathetic loss against St Kilda, they're going to be desperate to bounce back against one of the lower sides in the league. I think they're going to want to win this, but they shouldn't take North too lightly, I don't think, because I think North are going places. I know they only just go over the line against West Coast, but before they started choking, they were looking pretty good. But I still think North are a developing team, and Fremantle should be way too tough for them, especially out in the West. Moving on to Sunday, and now the early Sunday game, we have Sydney taking on Hawthorn at the SCG. Sydney had a massive win against the Suns. I'm a bit surprised they went on to smash the Suns. I thought they would beat them, but would struggle to beat them, but they beat them pretty easily in the end. And they're going up against Hawthorn, who are definitely the worst team in the league. They got destroyed against Essendon, and I think Sydney are in for a big one again. They could be on top of the ladder at the end of round 2, but now that I just say that, they're probably going to lose. So, but I'm going to be tipping Sydney by 57 points. I think they'll be way too strong for the Hawks, and I'm expecting this one to be a bit of a smashing. Sunday afternoon, we have Essendon taking on the Gold Coast Suns at Marvel Stadium. Now, I did say Gold Coast are going to struggle this year, and people don't believe me. They think Gold Coast are making the 8. If round 1 wasn't an indicator of that, then I think if Essendon go on to smash Gold Coast, surely you guys will believe me then. And I'm going to be tipping Essendon to win this game by 33 points. They looked really good against the Hawks, and they are sitting on top of the ladder, although they were versing the worst team in the league. They do have a really easy start, the Bombers. So they'll be looking to take advantage of that, and at their best, they are very capable. So yeah, I think Essendon will win this one. I think it's going to be a struggle for the Suns. Moving on to Sunday twilight, we have the West Coast Eagles taking on the GWS Giants at Optus Stadium. Now this one's a tough one, you know. I think the Giants are better than what other people think, and I think they proved that by beating Adelaide last week when they were down by 31 points. The Eagles didn't look that great against North Melbourne either. They did have a pretty decent comeback, but still, they're going to really struggle this year. Now, looking at this game, West Coast are going to be trying to get as many wins as they can because they know wins are going to be few and far between this season. And that's why I'm actually going to be tipping the Eagles in this one. I know 60% have gone with the Giants because they did look better than the Eagles did, but I'm going with the Eagles. I think the Eagles by 10 points. It's at their home ground, so that'll really help them. First home game of the year, and they'll be desperate to try and get some wins on the board early, considering they're probably not going to get many wins this year. So I think they're going to be hungry against the Giants, and the Giants may be a little bit complacent. So I'm going to go the Eagles, but could always be wrong, you know. Can definitely see GWS getting up. So yeah, those are my tips for round 2. Tell me your tips in the comment section down below. I hope you've enjoyed this video. Don't forget to subscribe for more content like this. Also be sure to click the thumbs up button and leave a like on this video. Also be sure to join my Discord server. It is called Australian Sports Community. Link to that is in the description. Also be sure to subscribe to my second YouTube channel. It is called Stoody Archives. Link to that is also in the description. Also be sure to follow me on my other social media accounts. I have Instagram, I have Twitter, and I also have TikTok. The username for all of those is StoodyYT, and links to all of those will also be in the description. I hope you all had a good day, and I'll see you all in the next video.